morning, Bobby. How's it going?
What's up, man?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So welcome to episode 3.
It's a pleasure being here with you, Bobby. I'm excited. It was a long week, but we're here, and I'm ready to have some awesome dialogue with you, and hopefully, this does have an impact on everyone. I know it will, but
Yeah, for sure, man. I'm excited. Just a couple weeks ago, we did our first episode, which we were, a little bit wishy-washy. We were brand new, and we're still learning, and we're going to keep learning, and hopefully we'll get better as time goes by.
thank you.
Yeah. So today's topic, man, is what is ego to us? Like, what's your definition of ego? What's my definition of ego? And is it good or bad?
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that.
What's ego to you?
First, I want to start by saying thank you to you, Bobby, for having me here, and thank you for going ahead and creating your building this dream, which I know you told me this is something that you wanted to do. It's awesome, that you and I can work on this together, and you know, um, as every episode, we're gonna continue to get better and better. So, I'm excited for the progress that you and I have made so far, and we're looking forward to what's next. You're saying what's my definition of ego? And so for me, the definition of ego is having a shield that prevents you from seeing others in a different perspective, or from being seen in a different perspective. So, um, ego, I would consider ego is pretending to be pretending to be something that we're not. So, I was looking at this podcast, not looking, but listening to this podcast, and he says that you'll never be able to become great at something if you first don't um, if if you first don't allow yourself to be a fool. And it startled me because I didn't really understand it when I first listened to that. But it basically, um, after taking some time to dig in, and obviously he also explained it better. He says that you need to become a fool. You need to be a fool in order to become um, better at something, right? And so one of the explanations I have is when let's say you take a karate class or a guitar class or a dancing class, and if you are not willing to put yourself in a position where you realize that you don't know enough and that you can learn more than what you know now, you'll never be able to go to the next level and to the next level and to the next level. And I think that's my definition of ego. Um, Not realizing that we are capable of more, because we allow the little that we know to it prevents us from scaling higher than what that we're capable of.
Okay. Is it good or bad to you, man?
I think ego has a purpose. There are instances where ego and arrogance can be put to work. And an example that I have is, like when I launched the business, um, my current cleaning business that I have. When I launched the business, you know, there was a lot of things that I could have taken advice in regards to not doing it. I remember when I started the business, it was like, don't do it, don't do it, don't start the business, because it's like you'll never be able to scale it, or just having a business is not for everybody. I remember that I had those comments and those attitudes brought up to me about how it didn't make sense to go out all out on something. It's like, don't start something that you don't know what's gonna happen. So kind of all that all those comments that can cloud your judgment, I really think that ego can have a useful impact in that instance. Um, because I went ahead and continued to push ahead on building the business. But not only that, as the business continued, I started bringing more people on. I started bringing really good people around me. And I think that's one of the best definitions of success is when when you start bringing people that know more than you and that are better at what you are doing. Um, and so what I started doing is I started bringing people around me of all sorts of backgrounds. And I still remember that I kept getting criticized, like, oh, you don't know what you're doing. And, like, this isn't working and your business is going to fail. And I just don't understand why, like, you do things the way that you're doing them. So I remember all those things were brought up to me. And rather than condemning myself and the business and saying, hey, like, it's right, like, this business won't succeed. I guess the ego and the arrogance continue to say, I don't have another option. Like, if this business fails, I'm going to have severe consequences, because there are things that need to get paid. And, obviously I want to be successful in order to have a higher quality of life and be able to spend time with my daughter. So for me, there was no other way. I couldn't turn back. I was way too, I was way too into this to just put everything down and say, you know what, I give up. And I think ego really can definitely uh, have a good impact. When you're motivated, when you have a vision, and when you know that there's no turning back. So I do see the positive in ego, and at the same time, like I told you just now, I also understand that it can be a tool that can be used improperly, right? So if if you're unwilling to take advice from others, if you're unwilling to better yourself, if you're unwilling to become a fool, you know, then it definitely clouds your judgment, and then you say, well, I know everything there is to know about things, and it never will allow you to become a greater person than you are now.
Okay. Well, thank you, Isaac, for sharing your point of view, and hopefully somebody maybe shares the same point of view. You mentioned that you should, when you started your business, that you bought people in certain subject matter that were more
Well,
experienced than you.
no, I think in the beginning, you know, we all have our, we all surround ourselves with the people like us. You'll never find, I find this to be true. But if you, I don't know if you can concur, Bobby, or not. Normally we surround ourselves with people similar to us, right? So, for example, if I'm a doctor, I'm most likely going to have people of similar backgrounds, like in a medical profession. If I'm an athlete, most likely I'm going to be associated with people who are also athletes. If I work in government, most likely I'll have friendships of that also have a government background. I found that to be true. And so when I was a starting entrepreneur, I was a nobody, and I had no experience whatsoever when it came to business. And so most likely I was surrounded by people that also didn't have any business experience, who were probably in a similar position like me, where, hey, we work a job. And so what happens there is that those are the only people that I had around me. And we all start manifesting and talking about our dreams and what we're and our ideas and our goals. And that's when, like, people who have no experience running a business somehow are experts when it comes to what to do and what not to do. And I think that's one of the big problems of us starting out, is that, unfortunately, we take advice from people that don't know more than us. And so if you're out there and you're looking to do something, like, such as a business, or start a new routine, or, like, join a fitness program, or, like, change, get married, or any of those topics, if you're taking advice people that are similar to you, again, I'm not judging people. I'm just saying if they're not in a higher position where they've already accomplished something great, then I would say that their advice is irrelevant, and that is something that we don't really think about it because we consider them our friends, and so if that person is our friend, we simply assume, well, that person only wants the best for me. And even though that might be true, what they're saying or what they're resonating is not correct because again, what experience or what do they have to back up the claims that they have? And you'll find that happens a lot in when it comes to people starting a business or investing or really going out of their comfort zone. You're always going to find people that say, "Oh, the stock market is gambling," or like starting a business is the worst idea to that you can. It's the worst thing that you can do. Like, why do that? Like you're gonna always find people that are gonna tell you why it's wrong and why it doesn't make sense. However, if you ask them what background or what platform do you have that allows you to advise me on that, they probably have never built anything successful in their lives like similar to what you're trying to build, and so that should discredit the advice that they get. But again, in the beginning, when you're starting out, most likely you're hanging out people of similar backgrounds like you, and so unfortunately we take advice from that, and that's one of the big benefits of us putting out this podcast, and also sharing what we learn from others, Bobby, because again, when I was in that process, I remember constantly tuning in to these great men and these great autobiographies, and I constantly listened to what other great people did because I said, yeah, I know what my friends are telling me, but I want to listen to those great successful men. What have they done, and how did they conquer, and how did they go about their fears, and all those great people that I've listened to have really mentored me because it really taught me that even though we are wrong, you shouldn't allow that to prevent you from starting something. And you and I were on the phone, Bobby, on Thursday, and that's what Jay was talking about. He called it the the MVP, the most viable with a B, like Victor, the most viable product. And one of the problems when people start a business is that they assume that they have to get everything perfect. Like I have to get the logo, I have to get the right customers, I have to get the right pricing, I have to get the right shipping labels, I have to get the right marketing. All these things cloud our judgment. And again, in the beginning, we have to start with the most viable product, which is not gonna be completely perfect, but it's the best that you can put out at that moment. And as you continue to sell and progress and continue to innovate, that is going to continue to get better and better and better with every step of the way. Kind of like the iPhone, right? When we started with the iPhone 3, 2G or 2E, I think, the first iPhone, now when you look at all the generations that have passed from the first iPhone to the current iPhone that we have, it's like night and day. It's a completely different product and beast. And again, Apple put out what they had at the moment, and they continue to improve on every single year. And I think that's what ego does for us, right? It clouds our judgment. It only allows us to see. It only wants us to throw out something perfect when in reality it's gonna take several steps and several years to get to a position like that. But it shouldn't. We shouldn't fear the process and the steps that will take us there.
Okay, so I guess sorry about that. My definition of ego would
Yes,
be
sir. Want to hear it? We want to hear it.
the fake you, the you that needs protecting, that you that needs to show off, the you that needs to have this or that in order to feel fulfilled, the you that's always wanting to have everything so nobody can tell you nothing. That to me is ego, man. I
Bobby, are you talking about like being content with what you have now, or what do you mean?
No, it's like the ego is like, I need to have this so I can show it off, you know?
You mean like materialism?
Nah, it's in you, but I guess you can say it's a type of, you can have materialism with ego, but it's inside of you. It's there whenever someone corrects you and you can't take it because it's like they're right. I should know more than them,
And
you know?
we just dismiss it as they don't know more. They don't know anything. They don't know what they're talking about. Maybe.
Yeah. It's that ego that I need to have this type of girlfriend, or I need to have this type of social status to make me feel superior to the rest of, so I can't be walking around with Walmart shoes or Payless shoes. I need the new Gucci, the Prada. I need I that self-image that you portray, it's there to to make you feel some certain way, I guess. But
I
ego to me, that's ego to me. The where when you can't take another person correcting you.
yeah. If Bobby, if I can just ask you a question about that. So I think that what you're talking about is still materialism, and I think that's one of the things that America has created. You know, because I was talking to Jay about this. I was talking to Jay about this, and do you know what what storage containers are, right? The rentals that you um, that you that you rent to store things. It's like it's got like the garage
Yeah,
door, and you pay 60, 60, 80 bucks a month. Now it's
yeah,
and I
yeah,
was looking
yeah.
at some statistics online, and it says that only in America is that does that business exist. Like nowhere else in the world does that exist. And just think about that. That means that America is the only place where people have so many things that they've accumulated that they actually are willing to pay to store them in a different location. Nowhere else in the world does it exist. And I think that just goes to what you're saying, where it's like we that we assume that things bring us happiness and a certain status of things, like you're saying, like a brand or like a gold watch or something of high value is somehow going to make me better. When in reality, we should consider those like traps because they take so much effort for us to acquire them, and then in return, they don't provide us any value other than a, a temporary good feeling, a temporary good feeling that eventually goes away, and it makes you seek the next thing after the excitement has wore off.
Yep, that's exactly it.
And so,
Um,
like, how do you see, Bobby? How do you see that being like? How do you see that destroy or limit people? You know, who can be better, who can be better than what they are.
of course, I have a book called, and it's written by Ryan Holiday. It's called "Ego is the Enemy," and he speaks about the designer of the DeLorean. If you remember the DeLorean, it was that I think it was that Back to the Future car.
Oh yeah,
He was part of General Motors, but he decided to branch off and do his own thing because he thought he was smarter, superior. He thought he basically thought he had everything figured out, when in reality he really didn't. And basically, the DeLorean company went bankrupt, and because of his ego and because of other factors that he really didn't know about, it's like, well, that DeLorean was just it just vanished. It went poof. And to me, when you get ahead of yourself sometimes, that's ego. When you think you figured out everything, that's ego. Like there's a famous philosopher, Seneca, right? And he's over there with Aristotle, with Marcus Aurelius. He was asked, "Hey, what have you learned in this time of your wisdom and your ability to speak in public and everything?" And he responded, "I haven't learned anything." And that right there is like, wow, like, yeah, this guy's a wise guy, and he speaks like philosophically, and he ended up being one of the most biggest names in modern day history who speak about like life and philosophy. But when they asked him like what has he learned, he said nothing.
One of the most renowned persons, and I think you said, I don't know if it was nothing, but I think he says, I haven't learned like sufficient, or there's like way that I need to learn, that I don't know anything, that I don't know anything yet, right? Like there's way more to learn than what he knows now.
Yeah, it's something along those lines. It's either anything or it's like I haven't learned nothing, anything. But if you look it up, I'm sure you'll find it, and it's something like that. So
I think it's I don't know anything. Like I don't know anything, right? So he said that he doesn't know anything yet. Like he still has everything else to learn yet, even though you could consider him the most expert person in his field. He still, in his mind, he says, I don't know anything still, like, because that's how much room he still felt that there was for him to learn. So again, I think that goes back to he made himself a fool, and that gave him that blocked that ego, that took away that ego, and allowed him to still continue to learn and grow.
100%. That's like one of my favorite quotes. I forgot where I heard it from. I think it was from that book, Ego is the Enemy. But it stuck to me, and I'm like, okay. Ego to me, is it good or bad? It depends, man. It depends. For me, if you don't keep it in check, it runs amok, and it could be bad. It could be bad for you, and it could be bad for the people around you. But if you keep it in check,
do you have an example, or like something that you could share with us? Some personal example that that you could share with us?
Yeah. I basically, when I say it could be bad, it'd be like let's say you're the boss of a company, and one of your people is working his or her neck off, and is doing everything he or she is supposed to do, making you look good, making everybody around her look good, and they ask for a promotion or a raise, and you're like, no, you don't need a raise, you just keep working. No, you're not going to get paid more than Mr. Steve over here. He's been working this company, but X amount of years, but you just came in this company about a year ago, and you're already doing more and more and more than Steve ever did in X amount of years. But because your boss said no, because he feels like you still haven't earned enough like Steve or whatever, it's like, no, like, how would I say it? Like, he didn't see the big picture, I guess. I think that's like not the best example, but like basically, because you haven't been there as long as Steve, but you've performed Steve, you're not gonna get a promotion. It doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter the hours you stay in there, because of the time and because of whatever other X factors, you're not going to get that promotion. So I think that ego is like you have to meet a certain expectation in order for me to be like, okay, yeah, you can come in. But if you don't meet that certain expectation, you're like, no, you're not better than Steve. You're not better than him. Yeah, you're doing everything you're supposed to, but you're not better than Steve. Still, whatever. I think that's how ego can hurt you, and it can hurt other people around you, because let's say that you do get that promotion. Let's say that the ego's out of the way, right? Whatever. And now like everybody's doing good because you showed off. Your work shows up for itself. Your performance. Now the whole company's doing better. But because you didn't get that chance, the company's still like stagnant. It's not going up. It's just staying the same thing. It plateaus. But if your boss, your CEO, your person above you would let oh yeah, come on, maybe it would be better.
So you're saying that the boss's judgment was clouded by what he thought, because he knew that he was the boss, and he knew that he can't make mistakes, and that he felt superior. That even though he had a more hungry and more driven employee, he refused to advance that employee out of the callousness that he had, that he assumed that he knew more than that driven employee. So he refused to allow him to advance himself, just because he hadn't been as long at the company, so he assumed he wasn't as experienced.
Yes.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
That's exactly it. And that's what I mean by keeping it in check, I guess. Keep your ego in check so it doesn't run amok on your personal life, on your work life, whatever. Life in general, man.
It's sort of like I would say it's sort of like a very, very powerful tool that we need to not take it for granted. Would you say that? So I would say it's something that has so much power, but we should know when to use it and also when not to use it, right? Because if we use it at the wrong time, then it can definitely bring a lot of harm to ourselves and to others. But if we use it at the right time, then it can be applied in a proper way. So I would say it's like a tool, right? It's something that is there. It was obviously created for a reason by God, but then we need to be very careful and always do some self-reflection and consider what we've done that day and say, hey, did I allow ego to get the best of me? And Bobby, I don't know if I can also share this with you, but I can tell you that I've allowed ego to take the best of me. Just for example, I remember, I'm still 29 right now, but I remember when I was like 23, 24, and I remember that I was building I had another business, and that business basically I allowed it to completely go I allowed that business to completely, what's the word that I'm using? I completely allowed that business to dismantle itself, simply because of my arrogance and because of my ego, because I felt that I was so successful, that I thought I knew everything there was to know, and I refused to take advice from others. It was I used to have 2 cell phone stores in Chicago. The first one, we spent way more money than we should have to start it, and then the second one was a very small store, but it almost took no capital to start. And when I was running them, immediately the money started flooding in. Like it's just one of the things that you don't expect, but immediately so much money was coming in. And I allowed that to go to my head, and I was like, look at me, I am so good at this. Like, look at how successful I am. And immediately, once I was able to allow that ego to overtake my mind, all the actions after that were just completely improper actions. I started paying bills on time. I started overspending. I started falling behind on deadlines. I stopped taking advice from very successful people. And what happened is that business pretty much went bankrupt, overnight, immediately. I remember when the lights turned off. I still remember when the lights turned off, and they took the, because obviously when you're in the phone industry, there is always, you're going to be always under a different company. And immediately, once they realized that I wasn't capable of running this business successfully, they quickly came in and took it over from me. And all the all the money that was invested and all the work that was done to build this successful store in the right location was immediately taken overnight from me. And I remember that at the time, I just didn't care. I thought, whatever, like, it's their problem now. Let them deal with it. But then I was unemployed. I had absolutely no money. And then I went to go, like, crash at my then girlfriend's place. And I completely overnight went from, not overnight, but it took a couple of weeks. It went from being a successful entrepreneur to, just being, sleeping at, not even having a place to sleep. And I had to, like, create all this chaos, and started asking people for money and this and that. And it's something that was very humiliating at the time as well. But it definitely, like I can attest that ego can definitely take you into the wrong direction.
That's definitely true, man. And thank you for sharing your experience on that. But now you know, right? Now you know you're through that experience that you had. Now you know what not to do.
Yes.
So I guess that's a lesson learned.
Our friend Jay, he says that it's it's only a mistake if you don't learn from it. And so, even though I do regret all the actions that I take, and it's something that I brought harm to my family, because I I showed them all the things that I was capable of, and overnight everything was thrown into the garbage. And like, one of the things that I didn't realize at the time was that people look up to you, Bobby. People look up to you. And I remember my cousins, my mother, my sister, all the people around me, they were looking up to me, and they're like, "Look at this young man. He was able to create something successful in a matter of weeks." And overnight everything was disrupted and thrown in the garbage. And just I think about how I was able to inspire them, and immediately after that they basically dismissed all the hard work that was done out of my ego, and out of my stupidity
Excuse me.
to think that I knew everything. And so basically, even though I did inspire them, at the same time they immediately were probably disgusted at how how tragic the ending of all this became.
Yeah, I see what you mean, man. But like I said, you now know, and life is about learning. I think that goes back to what Seneca told him. Like, I don't know anything yet. So maybe at that point in time you didn't know anything, but the ego was there to, like, hey, let me show you what you don't know yet. Let me make you fail so you know what what to learn from this experience. So, and I know you follow Dr. Jordan Peterson too, and one of his books, 12 Rules for Life. I have it. It's an awesome book, but it's either in the book or somewhere in one of his podcasts where he's like, you should have your you should know how to use your sword, but keep it sheathed. Like, only use it when you have to. But other than that, take keep it in the cloth, keep it in the sheath, because you should be competent and dangerous. I believe that's what he said.
So you mean like kind of isn't that kind of like the art of war? The have you heard of that book, The Art of War?
Yeah,
Where it's
yeah,
like
it's a
only
well-known book.
like where you only like the strategy is not to go into battle, but prevent everything to go to
Yep.
battle, and then use strategies to counter the enemy in so many different ways that you never put in your position. You never put yourself in a position where you actually have to get into a bloodbath, because
Yep.
it is very likely that if you go out there and you fight, that you're either going to lose, or that you're going to be wounded, or worse, you're going to be killed.
Yeah, I think it's in the same deeper meaning in the art of martial arts. It's like you shouldn't overcome your opponent, but yield to overcome your opponent. Like use the force, your own opponent's force against him or her. It shouldn't be like to know how to like kick butt or whatever, which I guess it's a oxymoron in a way, but it's more to yield your opponent than to overcome it, to overcome the opponent. So, but I know we're coming up on 45 minutes now, man. So I want to make this episode short. I don't know if you want to add anything to it.
No, I just I want to thank you for the time, Bobby. I'm really excited, to for next week as well, and thank you for bringing this topic. I think it was very important for all of us to understand that ego can be, like you said, is similar to a sword. It has it has the it is a tool that can be used at the right time, but it's not something that should lead you or should guide you in every action that you take.
Yep, that's exactly it, man. We all need a little bit of it to keep moving along in life, but don't let it run your life. So I think that's the point of this whole episode of this podcast. So Isaac, thank you for coming out again, man. I hope to continue our podcast throughout the whole weeks, future weeks coming up, and hopefully we can get a guest on.
Of course. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we're getting into a good rhythm here, where you and I are not afraid to discuss things, and
Yeah.
that's one of the first things that you and I wanted to get in the habit of really asking the hard questions, and opening to each other, and I think that is the case now. We're now we have to learn how to do that with another person, how to ask the hard questions, and how to show them that we're not here to judge them, but instead we're here to allow them to open up their mind to us, and share their thoughts and their heart with us.
Yep. Their personal growth journey. Yep. I'm excited, man. I'm excited to have some guests on here, hopefully here soon. But I think we're doing great so far. Nice and easy. And
MVP,
Isaac, thank you. I
most
hope
valuable
you.
product.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Jay, for letting us know that. And yeah, man. I hope you enjoy your weekend.
Thank you, Bobby. You too as well.
Yeah.
I
Thank you, man.
blessings,
And then
blessings to you and to your family, and I look forward to hearing you accomplish. Um, I don't see you as a friend of a couple weeks or months. I see you as a friendship for life. I look forward to seeing everything that you're going to accomplish for the rest of your life, man. So, and
yeah,
and
hopefully,
your
man.
ups and
Like,
downs.
oh, thanks, man. I feel the same towards you, man. Like, who would have thought, you know, living in Pilsen and meeting you there and me moving away and going our separate ways and then coming back like within the next year and having this podcast, I would have never thought. I would have never thought, but I'm glad it happened. And I couldn't be more blessed to have, you know, friends like you and everybody in Chicago that I know. So thanks, man. But let's stop right here, and then we thank our viewers, our supporters, and we'll just keep putting out podcasts and more episodes, and hopefully you guys can subscribe and like and share and learn from some of the things that we speak, and maybe even input your own things.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that.
All right, bro. Have a good one.
You too. Thank you, Bobby.